Hello, everybody, and welcome to an interesting Monday edition of Moohead Radio, Brown's pregame programming, brought to you by a cow. A cow cares. What he cares about, I really don't know. Monday Night Football again. That means no post-game show, but there will be a halftime show. So I want everyone to know that, yes, there is a halftime show, but no, there is no post-game show. I need my beauty sleep. And you can see I'm not getting it. Right? Joining us on the panel today, we have Brian, we have Rox, and we have Rick. So it's nice to have some of the crew along. These Monday night games, I'll tell you, it gets brutal just in terms of staying up and getting calmed down by the time I go to sleep. I don't like the way these games make me feel. But everyone's happy because they're getting free Browns programming by being on ESPN and NBC. So that's good. I mean, I guess you can't complain if you're not a regular Sunday ticket person because you can't afford it, which is completely understandable for what they're charging. This is a great opportunity for you to see the Cleveland Browns play. I wanted to do something a little different in this program, so I'm going to take my pants off and draw a little face on the end of my penis and make faces at you. No, I wanted to do something a little different on the program. I'm sorry, I went off the script, and this is what happens.
And now for something completely different.
Yeah.
You have a script? Wow.
A man with 3 buttocks. I'm just going to sit there.
There's our Monty Python reference for today.
There it is. Yes. Yes, I've seen every one of them. That makes me a sick person. I wanted to see what the other side fans were saying about this football game, because we haven't done it this way before, and and believe me, there isn't a way that Rox hasn't done it. Okay.
Processing.
There's just silence. I mean, I guess silence is like acquiescence. No, she's not responding.
Internally reminiscing.
Yeah. Walking through the park and reminiscing. Is that how many different ways? I think find 100 ways.
Well, at least it's not one is the loneliest.
Rivers deep, oceans wide. Okay, enough. Enough. We will. I wanted to see what San Francisco 49ers fans were saying, because they're 3-0, and what they really are thinking this game is going to wind up being. They're about a 5-point favorite to win the football game. Here's the first thing they're saying is our defense has to apply pressure on Baker Mayfield, and they're predicting 4 sacks of Baker Mayfield the course of the game, right? And their hope on this is based upon earlier in the season, the fact that the Browns still have Eric Kush on the line, and that he and Chris Hubbard are a 2-man wrecking crew for Baker Mayfield. The defensive tackle Eric Armstead and Dee Ford, defensive end, are going to line up opposite of this weak right side of the Cleveland offensive line. So, they're looking at Baker throwing the ball too early and receivers not being able to get into their breaks. Next, they're saying, got to neutralize Odell Beckham Jr. They'll just hold him and the referees won't call it. That's easy, all right? Richard Sherman and the second-year cornerback Emmanuel Mosley are going to try to cover Beckham, and, that's kind of the way that works. Sherman is – there are going to be a lot of cover 3 in here, folks. The Browns have to run the football. They got to run right at Bosa. They got to do something to move the ball on the ground and through short passes. We went over that on Friday. But the bottom line is they're going to be in cover 3, so it's going to be a combination of men. covering Beckham, and you're not going to get the opportunity of a 31-year-old Richard Sherman really trying to cover Odell Beckham in the open field, or else he'll just get run away from. Meanwhile, they're saying Tarvarius Moore, their free safety, and Jaquisti Tart. Where do these names come from? Jaquisti Tart sounds like a female protagonist in a Bond movie. You must be Jaquisti Tart. You know, I don't know.
Oh, I shagged a hard baby, yeah.
I didn't know it was your turn. No, we're not going to get into punchlines from Austin Powers, no.
But it's fun.
Yes, Mr. Powers. All right, at any rate, they're hoping that safeties are going to help out in case the Browns really throw the ball deep to Beckham. I think, you know, using the middle of the field and slants might be a better way with run after catch. And number 3, they're saying that they got to slow down Myles Garrett, which definitely happened last week, but it didn't help the Ravens. Left tackle Justin Skule, will be seeing a lot of him. Well, here's the deal. Skule is only starting the 2nd game of his career. He was a 6th-round pick this year. So they're going to be doing some chipping, folks. It's going to be somebody else besides Myles Garrett. It's going to have to be Olivier Vernon or, you know, some of those, the inside rushers who are going to be a little bit more freed up, because there's no way Justin Skule, a 6th-round pick this year, is going to stay with Myles Garrett. But they're saying, you know, they're also giving reasons why their team could lose to the Browns, which is, I think, fair. The first thing is that Nick Chubb is going to go off. I mean, it's like, you know, we saw that already. You know, I don't think that he's going to have a game like he had last game. That would be hard to believe. But he is averaging 5.1 yards per carry, and this seems to be a pattern with Chubb, the ability to break off big plays, but he's also consistently been averaging 5 yards plus per carry since he came into the league. Their concern is that Emmanuel Mosley, also known as Toast, is going to get toasted in the secondary as a safety by going in the wrong direction. Akello Witherspoon, this is the problem. He was a guy they were hoping that would help out, but Akello Witherspoon is down with a sprained foot, and that leaves them to Emmanuel Mosley and Jason Verrett. And Jason Verrett's terrible. Last week, Verrett was torched, absolutely toasted on a penalty and then a long touchdown on back-to-back plays against the Steelers. And that was against, the ex-starting quarterback of the Steelers. Wow, that was scary.
Yeah.
That was really scary. And I could have
Like
seen.
he had no idea where he was.
Browns quarterbacks with that look on his face after they started walking him off the field.
It was more than that. It was where he got hit. I was afraid of spinal damage, honest to God. First thing, when he went limp to the ground like that, I was seeing who was the lineman for the Lions, the center who got, I forget that fella's name, who ended up with permanent spinal damage. Very dangerous shit. I think that they're going to try to target Mosley, and that means throwing away from OBJ. And what they're concerned is we have our receivers, with the exception of Higgins. Higgins is not going to play tonight. But we do have Callaway. And in an open field, that can be dangerous enough. With that kind of speed on the field, then you have Jarvis Landry, who had a big game. The other concern they have is that their offensive line in the pass blocking isn't really going to be up to par. The problem with this is that they run the ball so well and they dedicate so much to running the football. 49ers sites are predicting over 150 rushing yards against the Browns. And that would not be surprising because even in a victory against the Ravens, we gave up that much or more in the running game. Of course, they had a running quarterback, and Garoppolo is far from that. Here's the deal. Garoppolo just was sacked once against the Steelers, and you saw what the Steelers did to the Ravens, all right, to Lamar Jackson. So they obviously were doing something right, and he's only been sacked 3 times this year. So if they're concerned about their pass blocking, it's been very good so far, offset by their ability to run the football. And then they're worried about the always troublesome penalties and turnovers. But with that in mind, they're all predicting their team to win, all right? As most people around the league are. They're a 5-point favorite, and there's a reason why. First of all, the 3 teams they've played and beaten weren't as good as Cleveland. That's the first truism here. The second thing is that Garoppolo is coming back from a tough injury and he's playing well. However, his history is not to be the 65% completion quarterback that he has been this year. We even found out that even the Denver Broncos can score 14 quick points in a game, and that's with the former Ravens quarterback. What was his name again?
Flacco.
Fluco is right.
Fluco.
Yeah.
Joey bought a Fluco.
Yeah.
What a Fluco.
So, they're predicting basically 150 yards rushing, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions against Baker, and they're predicting a 2-score win. That's 10 points or more. That's what they're predicting. All right. Looking at others who are predicting this, all over the place, writers are saying, I think maybe one prolific national writer was saying, we'll do. I've got so many predictions in front of me. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find all of them that I have, but it is really one-sided, really one-sided. And I'm not finding my predictions. Sorry. I'm sorry. You don't get them. No. Even on our site, dogsbynature.com, all right, you got a bunch of people who are picking the game. You got a bunch of people. Browns fans are saying, well, Browns 24-17, Browns 31-23, Browns 24-10, Browns 28-20. Then one Browns fan said the 49ers 45 and the Browns 13, and then they kicked him in the nutsack with a steel-tipped boot. And, yeah. Also seeing a Browns 31-24. These are from our folks, though. But a couple of our guys on Dogs by Nature are picking the 49ers to win 27-24, 28-27. And then one fan, a fanboy, said Browns 38, 49ers 3, which would be basically the second earthquake of massive proportions to have hit San Francisco, or a fire or whatever happened in San Francisco. Or the biggest butt fucking since the pre-AIDS days. All right. That was really uncalled for, and I apologize to my friends in San Francisco.
Hey, shove some sourdough in that hole.
Yeah, I know. And take the fucking flowers out of your hair. I'm not going to San Francisco. Yeah. So what do I think? What do we think? Well, first of all, updated news. Around the world and up your street. Moohead Radio News. Grady Williams not playing. Denzel Ward not tackling and not playing. I mean, once again, this must be, they must have really fucked up their hamstrings badly for this to be the case. This is no ordinary love. This is not an ordinary hamstring pull. These guys must have yanked it out big time. But everyone's feeling good because our secondary has looked pretty good in the last couple of games. So I'm not going to say that this is necessarily a problem, except to say,
if we still had Greg Williams, this would be an issue.
Anybody who has Greg Williams, it's an issue. The thing is this. It's the depth that's lacking. One of our guys gets carried off the field from our secondary, and then we're in deep shit. That's right. So we have no margin for error as far as health goes. And that's why I'm shocked that these two guys, that one of them isn't even able to suit up. You know what I mean? It leaves us very vulnerable. So not the best thing in the world for.
It's like telling the rest of secondary, tackle, but try not to break anything.
Oh, I found my predictions, by God. Jake Trotter of ESPN says the Browns 2016. Nick Wagner of ESPN, the 49ers 27-24. Greg Rosenthal, the token Jew, the 49ers 20, the Browns 19. Michael David Smith, gosh, aren't I cool? I got 3 names. Jan Michael Vincent.
He wants to be a missing Cosby kid.
David Ogden Steers from Pro Football Talk said 49ers 31, Browns 24. Michael Florio from Pro Football Talk, 49ers 24-17. And Vincent Frank of Forbes says,
Dr. Frankenfurter.
Yes. From Forbes magazine says, invest early and often with the 49ers, 24-20. Since when did Forbes predict football games? I think they could value.
Since gambling became legal.
Yeah, I guess Forbes could predict the price of a hot dog in the stadium there 2 weeks from now. That would be, But as you can see, most of the country believes that the 5-point favorites will actually win the football game. From the Browns' perspective, we do have 4 of our 5 receivers back. And that's good news, even though our secondary is thin. Our wide receivers are a little thicker, with the exception of Rashard Higgins, who, even though he practiced full.
Burnett will be in the rotation at safety. So there's at least a
little backup in the safety position. The cornerback position, I don't want to think about that. I really don't. As far as Higgins is concerned, he practiced full out on Friday, but I guess it wasn't enough. He obviously can't cut, or maybe he had soreness afterwards. But again, because they haven't told us that it's a sprained MCL, but I'm positive that it is, that's usually anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, but can go 6 to 8 weeks. This will be for him, what is 4th or 5th week? Is one of them. So he might yet miss another game.
Well, I think they're both at 4 weeks.
All right. Happened on the same day. Callaway. I mean, they're talking about the possibility of Callaway returning punts.
Penguin flippers.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Crab claws. We'll see about Callaway. I mean, I'd rather see him in the open field run away from people than try to outsmart them with his pattern running, especially after not having played all year. We got to find some.
Maybe we can give him Curly's bucket of confetti.
Yeah. What I'm really hoping for, seriously, I'm hoping that we don't rely on him to run what we used to call streak patterns. I'm hoping that we get the ball to him in open space, because, and he's only going to play X number of plays, which I still find, one thing, Jarvis Landry is not going to return punts, all right? That we know.
Yeah.
Not after a concussion. That ain't going to happen. So we have to find somebody who can return punts. I'm not sure who that might be. And if it's Ernest Johnson, he wasn't catching them in preseason.
Did they already release that number 10 kid that they brought up for the last couple of games of Callaway's
Taywan Taylor, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, but boy, you saw him returning kickoffs. I mean, his theme song is "Stop in the Name of Love." We can't have that. Jake Miller's asking me, does Ratley count as a wide receiver? No, he never did.
Not even the 10.
But he performed a miraculous soccer header on the flea flicker to Odell Beckham. I was wondering where I saw that. It was Pele. He was mimicking Pele.
Here I thought he was trying to catch it with his face mask.
No, it was an homage to Pele.
Reliable than his hands.
Soccer homage. Yeah. Mario says we play better as underdogs. Yeah, I can't argue. I'm not going to say one thing or another at this point, except we definitely need our wide receivers and our running back to have big games. Meanwhile, Callaway is still saying he's going to get 1,000 yards for the season, and it's like, man,
Is he counting playoff games or what?
A spliff, this thick man. I don't know what he's smoking. I have no idea. And then the other thing that bothers me is, we go back and we revisit the fact that he was smoking weed, and that's how he got himself this wonderful suspension.
Maybe he switched to peyote.
And after promising, the organization that he would be clean, Callaway now acknowledges that he slipped up despite promising Dorsey after he took a chance on him that he wouldn't let him down. Here's his quote: "I made a choice and it cost me. I grew from that, and I'm just here. I'm here now, and I took steps forward instead of backwards. I took steps forward to becoming a better person and a better myself."
He took 2 steps forward. He took 2 steps back.
Excuse me, it's 420.
God almighty. It's like,
it's 420. Do you know your LSD is?
Is he writing, really stealing the script from Josh Gordon's agent? I've heard this shit before and I don't want to hear it again. Shut the fuck up. Get clean.
That sound in the background was Josh's Mimeo machine. He's just making copies.
Yeah, so it would seem. But he's the one who's expected to return punts, and I find that real interesting. They're going to try to get him in the open field that way. But if he returns punts, I don't know how many snaps he's going to get at the wide receiver position. And look for Ricky Seals-Jones to get down the field. 49ers have been susceptible to long passes. Could happen again. I don't know. One thing that I can say is that Freddie Kitchens, for all of the flack that he took by people like me, fat fucks like me. That would be the name of my autobiography. Fat fucks like me. The Browns in first quarter drives last year, weeks 8 to 17, 41.2 scoring percentage, 9th in the league. It was only 17.4% when Hugh was there. That somehow doesn't, surprise me. The Browns have scored on 44.4% of their first quarter drives, 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals, 6 best in the league this year. The Rams are the only team to keep the Browns off the board through 2 drives this season. It started out slow last week. Boy, it got good right after that. I think that, that's nice to see that the team gets off to good starts. They're going to need it again. They need to take this crowd out of the game because 3-0 in San Francisco is something to get excited about because nobody really expected this from them. They have a very favorable schedule. We are hitting the hardest part of our schedule, folks. The next 4 weeks after this is going to be pure hell. The back half of our season is much easier than weeks 4 through 8. Believe me. If we come out 4-4 after 8 games, I think we're in good shape. That's how good I feel about the second half of the season. And this would be an important one to win because there's a bunch coming up that I don't think we're going to win. Or in the case of the Patriots, be allowed to win. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact of all the good calls the Steelers got against the Ravens. And I know I've got Ravens fans who watch this program. And I think the Ravens were exceedingly fortunate to win the football game. All things said and done, exposed again. I wouldn't be real thrilled at the sight of Lamar Jackson in the pocket after the first read is taken away from him, eating the ball and getting sacked so many times. I don't think that's good. Or throwing 3 more interceptions. I don't think that's good. And the Steelers aren't a good football team, especially with their third-string quarterback in. And if Juju Schuster didn't fumble that last one, they were marching into field goal range to win that football game. But be that as it may,
Humphrey wasn't doing enough holding, I guess.
I guess not. One thing I can tell you is you got to be free. Come together right now over me. All I can say is this: we need to win the game to stay up there with the Ravens. But the Ravens have an easier start to their season, and they're getting a lot of shit games out of the way early. And they are who we saw they were last week against the Steelers, and we're lucky as hell to get off the field. But still, with that said, there were some horrible calls that were pro-Steeler, still helping the fucking Rooney family out. It's disturbing. It's really disturbing.
The best news of that game. The Steelers are 1-4.
The Steelers stopped mattering to me the second that Pigpen got grabbed his arm and said, ouch. It's not the Steelers without him. We keep saying this every year. And finally, this is the year he's going to miss the season. You can see what's happened to him. They're Bubby Bristering. This is what happens.
And now they actually have a number 6 playing quarterback.
That's right. A guy who went to Samford. I thought his son went there.
You big dummy.
Here's your diploma, you big dummy.
His coach was Grady.
Yeah. Samford is just out here. Florida, and it's not a football program. And he's their starting quarterback. And, not real exciting if you're a Steelers fan, but they almost won that game. Steelers could have easily been 2-3. And it looked for a while like that's the way it was going to play out. But at any rate, the Browns have an opportunity, again, to script some plays, to get the ball in the hands of the right people and get up in this game. They're going to need it. They're going to need that because you want them playing from behind as much as possible. This is not so dissimilar from last week. A big running game, a quarterback who can be inconsistent, and a guy this time who is not escapable, like Lamar Jackson. So you want to get ahead and you want to force them into a situation where they got to throw the football more than they want to. So that's that. Could be worse, folks. It could be worse. When team president Bruce Allen of the Redskins is going to speak, it's an amazing thing. You hear somebody else's voice coming out of him. It sounds an awful lot like Snyder. The meeting that Bruce Allen had with his owner lasted no more than a couple of minutes, which means Snyder said, fire Gruden, the motherfucker. And so it was done. Dwayne Haskins remains on the bench as they stare at their other options and go, Colt McCoy. Boy, Colt McCoy, what can we say that we haven't said about 150 times? He got 7 points, 140 yards, 1 interception, and played like a Pop Warner quarterback. They're 0-5. Jay Gruden is gone. They gave the job to Callahan, Bill Callahan, the interim coach, who'll sit there and just do whatever Snyder tells him to do. He's got to make the decision, Colt McCoy or Case Keenum. He's already counted Haskins out. What kind of a choice is that? It can be worse, Cleveland fans. If we come out of this game 2-3, I'm telling you, if we're 4-4 after 8, we're okay. I'd like to win this one because there's others I'm sure we're going to lose. But we're not 0-5. We're not heading for Huey Jackson land, and they're not coming off a 33-7 loss to the Patriots. Redskins just flat out suck. Here's what Bruce Allen, yes, George Allen's son, said about Haskins. As far as Dwayne, we're excited as hell to have him on this football team, Allen said. We think he has a great future on the sideline, without a helmet on, without the ball in his hand. He's working very hard. He's learning the system, but he's terminally slow. When Coach Callahan decides to put him in, he'll make that decision, but we all know Coach Callahan won't make the decision. The owner will. But Jay was excited about Dwayne Haskins too, and look where it got him. I think he talked to several of you from OTAs to training camp about how well Dwayne was doing, and then he played him, and then he lost his fucking job. Callahan went on to say, I've been in this league a long time, and the last thing I need is a Negro quarterback cluttering up my one and only opportunity. Wait a minute, is that right? I'm sorry, I read that wrong.
Well, maybe he can yank Rich Gannon out of the retirement home.
You know, these guys like Callahan, it's like Vic Fangio over in Denver. He didn't celebrate after he won because I don't think he realized that he'd won. He was stunned, you know? Poor guy. People coming up to him and shaking his hand, going, what are you shaking my hand for? It's like, guy's been in the league 87 years, and he got his first win as a head coach. Unbelievable. These guys are interim coaches, you know? They're like Bickerstaff. If you have a last name of Bickerstaff in the NBA, you're an assistant coach. You're not a head coach. You're an interim coach, and then you get expelled and join another coaching staff. So if you're Jay, if you're Bernie, no matter what Bickerstaff you are, just remember, it is your destiny not to be a head coach, only an interim coach. If Callahan remains the coach next year, there's a better chance that Dirty Harry Callahan will be the coach next year. By the way, in Allen's 9 seasons, they are 59-89-1. Allen's 13-minute news conference highlighted that one tie. I mean, you know, God almighty. The Redskins are 139-185 under Snyder, and it's getting worse. Yeah. They have 10 players on injured reserve this season already, and a combined 52 players having gone on injured reserve for the past 2 years. It's unbelievable. Trent Williams remains a holdout, and you wonder why? Yeah. And at the Redskins stadium, there were more Patriots fans than Redskins fans.
Yeah. Brady and Belichick said they thought we were at their home game.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really bad.
Sadly, I remember when the good old days when they were sold out for like 8 years.
Oh, yeah. Those guys, they've retired their hog costumes. That's all gone, man. That shit's gone. Now all they have is the guy in the stands who has the costume of the bone sticking out of Joe Theismann's leg. What a horrible getup that is for Sundays. We're going to
pick. You can change jerseys.
Yeah, we're gonna.
It's now the Alex Smith jersey.
Oh, I forgot about him.
And the Colt McCoy jersey.
He literally doesn't have a leg to stand on. We're going to pick the Cleveland Browns game now, and we will start by going to, I hate to do this, but I have to start with last week's winner, Rocks.
I am going to say the Browns are going to win it 27-20.
Oh, shit. Rick?
I'm going with my heart instead of my head, and I'm praying that Nick Bosa doesn't get past Greg Robinson too many times tonight. I'll take the Browns 23-21.
And Brian?
I think it's going to mirror the Jets game and the Colts and the Chiefs. So I'm going to pick a lower scoring 19-13 Browns.
And I'm picking the Browns to win 27-17. And it's all dangerous when we're all in accord. You can change, Rocks, and you can pick the 49ers. So you could be the only one who's right again. Just if you're interested. But
I'll stick with mine.
Yeah, well, we're all going to stick with ours because it's come out of our mouths and we're stuck with it. You know, around the league, it was an interesting week. The Bengals proved they can still lose even to the Cardinals at home. The Titans are now 2-3 after that great win with the Browns. They're actually 1-3. And the guys who were shooting their mouths off have suddenly gone quiet. By the way, the Titans have released their kicker, Cairo Santos, Brian. Santos missed 4 field goals in the 14-7 loss to the Bills. 4 field goals.
I didn't want Santos. That was Filzy.
Yeah, I know. But I'm saying that was one of the guys that, God, if Seibert hadn't have come together here, that was one of the guys we'd have been looking at. Wow. 4 field goals. But a 14-7 game. And the Titans have no offense at all. 2-3 now. For those big talking, big swag, big dick Tennesseans, fuck them in the mouth. Fuck them in the mouth.
We no longer have to remember the Titans, huh?
And not only that, we don't have to worry about facing them later in the playoffs either. They're going down the shitter. The Raiders scraped by the Bears, who still can't find an offense. It's just they scored 21 points in the third quarter and 0 for the rest of the game, the Bears did. And suddenly the Raiders are 3-2, as are the Bears. It's kind of an unusual circumstance. But
John Gruden's still in the league. His brother Jay isn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, there you have that. I mean, the Raiders, the Raiders at least made some upgrades to their roster. So the Buccaneers lost to the Saints, and the Buccaneers is the unpredictable team. You just don't bet on these guys. They'll show up one week, the next week they don't show up. The Vikings beat the Giants, and Daniel Jones is not a man. He's a small man. I mean, he not good. Not good. Looking at the box score, he was 21 of 38 for 182 yards with 1 pick and a 31.7 QBR quarterback rating. I mean, that's not good, folks. That is not good. And Daniel Jones, that sounds positively like the guy that we thought he was.
Yeah, but their best offensive weapon is still injured.
Yeah. The Eagles just stepped all over the Jets like everyone's doing. God, they're awful. As we said, the Ravens squeaked by. The Patriots didn't squeak by. Do you know that ESPN, I was sitting there, no, it was NFL Network I was watching, and they had these 4 people, including one woman. And I don't mean to be gender insulting, but this woman, every like 10 seconds would just look up and smile at the camera, you know, and it's like, okay, I get it. I get what you're there for. But eventually they had to go to her, and they were saying, What teams match the records that we have up here? And one of the records was like 6-10. But then none of them seem to understand the concept of the thing. But they said that the Browns were not a playoff team. Browns are 8-8. But then it came up to this woman, and she had to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars, and she said 12-4. That means they have to go 10-1 for the rest of the season. Keep smiling at the camera. Learn your craft. Lower your skirt and learn what's going on. I mean, if you think that Minshew, I mean, you know what Minshew reminds me of? It reminds me of Mushu, which is pork, which is a Chinese dish. But what it really reminds me is another Chinese guy, Jeremy Lin. There's got to be a feel-good guy in every season. Remember Jeremy Lin when he had that Massivo, little stay in New York where he was sleeping on his friend's couch, and he said, wow, this guy's the future. He's a Chinese point guard.
No, to me, he's more like Jeff Hostetler.
Minshew is just... He was 26 of 44 for 374 yards with 2 touchdowns. I mean, it sounds good. But if you watch the end of the game, he didn't have enough arm to throw the ball into the end zone going across his body from 30 yards away from the goal line. Warning, Will Robinson, warning. But it's a good story while it lasts. But they're 2-3. They're not going 12-4. I just wanted to point that out to somebody. The Falcons and the Texans. Well, anyone who gives up 53 points to the Texans, I don't know, Arthur Blank, you're shooting blanks.
Steve isn't here doing whatever to his cat.
I mean, my God. Arthur Blank is shooting blanks, and at his age, it's common. The Falcons reek. They're 1-4. The Texans are 3-2, and the Broncos beat the Chargers. What's up? I mean, Phillip Rivers looked terrible. He was short-arming everything and not accurate and looked terrible. On a play that was wide open in the end of the game, an easy screen pass, he overthrew the guy by 4 yards. It was weird. And the Cowboys, too little, too late. They're 3-2 as they choke at home against the Packers. Yeah, all Cowboys fans, and yes, that includes Skip Bayless. Go fuck yourselves. The Cowboys are Jimmy Jones' team. They're not America's team. And the Chiefs, I cannot explain, folks. Jacoby Brissett took him to the woodshed. What the fuck? How can Mahomes not have any kind of a game? How is that possible?
That guy fell on his leg.
I don't care.
The one he's already been had the ankle issue all season with. The guy fell on his leg, and then after that, he couldn't dance around. He couldn't, and of course, which one is it? But his right leg, so that's his plant leg, or his driving leg. So, he got hurt in that game. That's why he couldn't do anything offensively, and they don't have Kareem Hunt to make up for a lack of speed on the outside.
Yeah, 4-1 though. I mean, they're still in the driver's seat, but boy, nobody would have thought that at home they'd lose to the Colts. Goodness gracious.
Not much of a rushing defense, and Indianapolis,
Yeah, but every year
they had control of the clock. It was like 38 minutes possession.
Yeah, but the goddamn Patriots have a game like this too. Every season they have one game where they just totally lay an egg.
Yeah.
They'll lose to the Jets like 43-3 or whatever, and then come back and dominate everybody else the rest of the way.
Michael Killey, hello. Thank you for showing up to the chat room today. And Amsterdam and Rocks, I'm glad that both of you, with your lack of knowledge of sports, have found something that you can commiserate about. Somebody knows what the fuck he's talking about. What in the hell's this music? Do you hear that music?
No.
I don't hear anything. Not music, anyway.
Oh, it's on one of my pages. Yeah.
Maybe
I was
it's
wondering.
Ginger Baker from above.
Yeah, Ginger Baker was fucked up anyway. He made it to 80, and I'm amazed he made it to 80.
Between the
He looked like
cigarettes and the heroin.
a good gust of wind could blow him over. And, you know, I want to end up the show because I want to cut off a little early because I got some things I got to do before as I'm getting the halftime show ready, and I got to get everything, you know, ready to eat while I'm watching the football game. A sad thing that I read today. A lot of us have been following Alex Trebek, the host of Jeopardy, through his journey in pancreatic cancer. And for the first time today, he looked defeated to me. He is already stating that this will most likely be his last year on Jeopardy, that he has sores in his mouth from the chemotherapy, that he is having trouble enunciating words. And by the end of the interview, he said, I'm very sorry that I went public with this because people are contacting me looking for sympathy and help. He goes, and I don't have the intelligence and I don't right now have the strength to be able to give that to people. And he said, he goes, and I know what's going on, and I know my life is going to be over soon. So catch Jeopardy while you can, folks. There's no replacing that guy. This is not a Brown secondary thing. I felt horrible when I saw it. But when the realization hits that it's that kind of cancer, it's pancreatic, there just ain't no winning. There ain't no winning. And I really felt very, very sad to see him come to that. Very kind of a brutal thing. Well, everybody, I'm going to be around at halftime. I hope you join me. It'll be on StreamYard, so your comments will be right on the screen. You got nothing to worry about there. And everybody, thanks a lot for joining us, and I'll see you at halftime. That should, I'm thinking maybe around 10 o'clock or so. And then after the game, I'm going to bed. So don't be looking for no post-game show. We'll talk about that on Friday. All right, everybody, take care. And until halftime, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.